What's that? Well, in the context of an IRS problem case, there is something known as the Collection Statute of Limitations. You'll hear me sometimes call it the CSED for CSED, which is an acronym that stands for the Collection Statute Expiration Date. Or sometimes you'll hear the IRS talk about it as the CSED, which is a Collection Statute of Expiration Date, same thing. The thing that's interesting to know, or that you need to know, is that there is a 10-year statute of limitations for the collection of tax, of income tax and payroll tax, as a matter of fact. And that begins to run 10 years from the date of the assessment of the tax. Now, I could actually talk about this for an hour or two in a real technical setting, but I'm not going to do that because we don't have a lot of time on this video. But what you need to think about is the assessment date is when the tax became formally due and owing to the IRS. That's normally April 15th, which is the due date of the return for most people, but it's not always. If you file your return early, it becomes April 15th, the due date of the return, but if you file your return late, it becomes the later of those two dates. So if you file your return, you get an extension, and you get an October extension, so you don't have to file on April 15th. But you go ahead and you file on September 9th, then all things remaining constant, let's just assume that they accept your return and they assess the tax on September 9th. That'll be the assessment date that the 10 years will start to run from. Now, there can be multiple assessment dates, so let me give you an example. If you file a return and it shows that you owe $100, and then later on the IRS finds a math error, or they decide to audit you, and 2 years later they decide to assess additional tax, then you would have a second assessment date, and the 10-year statute of limitations would begin to run from that date as well for 10 years. Now, there are a number of things called tolling factors that can apply, which will actually stop the collection statutes from running. I'm going to give you some examples just off the top of my head. This is by no means meant to be an exhaustive list, but an offer in compromise is one thing that can toll your statute or extend it. A bankruptcy is another. The filing of an innocent spouse application or a collection due process hearing. There's a long